Alright guys, today we're going to be talking about the niche or niche kit, whatever you call it. Kits that you can buy for the Raptor 660 or any of the other four-wheelers that they're starting to make kits for. I noticed that they're making, top-end kits like I've got for my four-wheeler. They also started making some cylinder heads, but today we're going to talk about my experience with it. So a little history behind what I have on my four-wheeler. I've had my kit on here for about 2.5 years now, and I've only blown 2 head gaskets, which actually weren't even the fault of the cylinder kit. So the first head gasket that I blew, I think was maybe 10 hours into it, and whenever I tore it down, the cylinder was actually fine. It was not even the kit's fault. It apparently was my head, because after I checked it with a straight edge ruler, I started to realize that my head had a lot of gap in between it. Sent it off to the machine shop to get resurfaced, got back riding, and blew the head gasket in about 10 hours again. But then again, it also wasn't a fault this time. I started tearing it apart, and I couldn't find anything wrong with it. I checked the head wasn't warped, surprisingly, and the jug wasn't warped. I couldn't figure out what was causing it. So I started looking into the cooling system, and somehow, I'm assuming after the first head gasket, my thermostat broke. Then also after I fixed my thermostat, I realized my fan wasn't wanting to come on, so my fan never came on that entire time whenever I was on that ride the second time it blew. Fixed both of those issues. I've been riding ever since. I've got maybe 40 or 50 hours on this thing now, and it's still going pretty strong. Now, what most people want to know is it really worth it to buy such a cheap kit? I bought my kit for $125 back 2.5 years ago. I know the price has increased, but you're getting a cylinder, you're getting a piston, you're getting gaskets, you're getting the rings, the wrist pin, everything that you need for it, and you're only getting it for less than $200. And as my grandpa always says, if you buy cheap, you get cheap. And in this case, it's definitely pretty cheap. But to make it worthwhile, it seemed to be working for me pretty well, so I'm going to let you know what I ended up doing. First thing that I did, I made sure that I checked over all the clearances whenever I started working on this kit. I made sure that the piston wasn't over top of the clearance or under the clearance. I made sure the ring gaps were good. I made sure that the cylinder surface was completely flat so I could make sure that it wasn't going to blow a head gasket as soon as I put it on. All of these things are things that you need to check even if you get a good quality one. Because it seems like what most of these people are having an issue with is the sleeves dropping inside the cylinder, which is something that you can't really control once you start, but it's something that you could look for whenever you first get the kit. So what I'm about to show you is what a fan sent me over my email about what happened to his kit. Thanks to John's technical channel for sending me these pictures. So as you can see inside these pictures, you can tell that there is a visible gap between the cylinder bore and the cylinder surface. There should be no gap in between there. The clearance that Yamaha gives inside the manual is very, very tiny, and if it's over that spec, you're most likely going to blow a head gasket. I'm pretty sure what he was telling me was that he had this on there for about a couple hours as well, and his sleeve dropped. So obviously, he could have checked this beforehand, and the next thing you know, the sleeve dropped whenever he was on a ride, which probably caused his to fail. And in his photo that he also sent me, he has an oversized Mishimoto radiator on there. So cooling shouldn't have been his issue, like what happened with mine. And it seems like a clear manufacturing failure from this company. But it's also the thing of like, you get what you paid for. And this is one of those cases. And what I would also recommend, obviously it wouldn't help them in this case, but it would probably help you in another case, is don't use the gaskets that they sent you or the jug bolts. They're not OEM jug bolts, they're not OEM gaskets. The gaskets that they gave you, especially for the deck surface, to be able to go from the engine to the jug, that little paper gasket is so pathetic. It's better off just to use black RTV for that rather than using that paper. That head gasket seemed like it was the flimsiest thing that they could ever give you, but you're paying $160 for it. What's an extra $50 to get you a cosmetic gasket kit that actually is most likely going to last the duration of the four-wheeler, if nothing else fails? But also with the jug bolts, don't use them. They're not OEM, and they're probably up to the standard of what the jug is. It's probably not going to last. As soon as I bought the kit, that's the first thing I was thinking of. I bought all OEM bolts for the head and for the jug whenever I bought this. I did not want to take any chances of those failing and possibly cracking the cylinder, which is why I had to replace it in the first place. So if you're thinking about buying this kit, just keep these in mind. What I would do if I were you is if you bought the kit, double check everything, take it to a machine shop if you don't trust it. Go have them surface both your head and your jug if you can't check it yourself, and even if you can check it yourself and you just want to make sure that everything is as flat as possible, you have no scorching on top of the surface, or if you just want to pressure test your head just to make sure that everything is fine, you don't have cracks in your head or even inside the jug, it's something that you should do. You're paying so little for this kit, you might as well do it anyways. Because it's much better than spending $400 or $500 plus to be able to get one of those better kits. And most of the time that's just for like the piston or the jug. So I hope that clears up a couple things about this top-end kit. As always, buy at your own risk. This is just my personal experience from it, so it's not going to be everybody's, as you saw from the pictures I just showed you earlier. So that concludes this video, so if you'd like some more videos like this, please subscribe.